Hello, this is our video for adding integers, and we've already done one where we show what happens when you add integers where both of them are positive. So I just wanted to review that. And you saw where they just kept traveling down the right side, the positive side of the number line. You add the numbers and the answer ended up being positive. And then also when it showed both of them were negative. And in a complete reversal, they traveled down the left side of the number line, you added the numbers, but the answer ended up being negative because it was down the left side past the zero. Now we're going to look at what happens when you have one positive and one negative. And I'm using the same numbers every time, just the 3 and the 7, but I'm changing it so that one time the 3 is negative, one time the 7 is negative. So in this first example, the 3 is positive and the 7 is negative, so we're doing 3 plus negative 7. And just like before, we need to set up our number line, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make it so that my 0 is right about here, looks like a good spot. And then I'm going to do the positive side of the number line in order, and the negative side of the number line in order as well. And then I'm going to go and start using my highlighter like I did before. And I just go left to right. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to highlight, but you don't have to technically, but that's just the way I like to do it. I'm going to go with my 3. I'm going to locate where my 3 is on the number line. It's right here. Now I use the second number to tell me which direction I want to go. So it's a negative 7, so that's going to be, I'm going to have to travel to the left. So from the 3, I'm going to go left 7 positions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands me right here at the negative 4. So my answer is negative 4. Now, some people would be like, well, how did you know it was left? Well, if it didn't have the negative sign, if it was just like this, you'd start at the 3 and you'd add 7, increasing it. And since they're both positive, it would go to the right. Well, the other way to think of the negative is as an opposite symbol. So you're really not adding 7, you're doing the opposite of that. So if you were adding just a positive 7, you would go to the right, and the opposite means you would go to the left. So that's why we would go to the left. Now, and also it doesn't matter which way it's written. I just wrote the 3 first on this one, but if it had been written in this order, you would end up with the same answer. So I'm going to show this one. And like I said, I always start off just highlighting the first number. So now it's a negative 7. So now it starts way over here. You're kind of like, well, how can I get the same answer? Well, I'm adding a 3 and the 3 is positive, and to add a positive, I would need to go to the right. So from this negative 7, I'm going to go to the right 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I still end up on the negative 4. So it doesn't really matter which one you start with as long as you get the direction for the second number correct. On the first one, we started with the positive, but because you were moving 7 spaces to the left, you end up on the negative side with the negative 4. But in the second way that I did it, you start all the way over at the negative 7, and even though you're going to the right, you're only going 3 spaces to the right, so you're staying in the negative zone. So it just sort of depends upon where you're starting and which direction you're going, but you should get the same answer either way. Now, let's see about the second example, because then some people will think, well, every time you do a positive and a negative, your answer is negative. And that's not true when you're adding. That's sort of a thing that we get from multiplication. When you multiply a positive and a negative, your answer is negative, but that's not really how it works with adding. Sometimes it is, like in example 3. Let's look at example 4. And I'm going to start off again by making my number line. And I'm just going to try to make it look very similar to the one that we had before. So I'm going to put my 0 and my positive side. And then I'm going to put my negative side. Okay, and just like before, I'm going to start off with my highlighter. And so I'm going to highlight that first number. So I'm going to start off at the -3 because now I've switched it. So it's -3 plus 7. And I'm going to use my arrow to show the direction. So now this is a +7, so I'm going to be going to the right 7. So even though I'm in the negative, because I'm jumping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so many places over on the right, it goes past the 0, and my answer ends up being a +4. And some people say, well, does it do the same thing if you do the numbers in the reverse order? So let's just reverse the order, and then we can look at that. I'm going to again highlight the first number. So now I'm starting way over here at the +7, but when I add, I'm adding a -3, and so negative is that opposite direction. So I'm going to go to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, and yep, I am still at the +4. So hopefully you're starting to see an example of maybe a pattern that's evolving of you get a positive number for your answer versus a negative number for your answer.